Connected, connect boldly. Connect boldly. Connect boldly. Activate your power. Be unstoppable. Time to win big and hear great stories of unstoppable success.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Unstoppable Success Podcast. I am your host, Jaclyn Strominger. And as you know, on this podcast, we hear from amazing leaders. They share their tips, their insights, so that you can have unstoppable success. And today I get to introduce you to Nikki Gangemi. And let me tell you a little bit about Nikki. She is the founder of Mindful Matters, and she is a board certified NLP practitioner and a hypnotherapist. No, she's not going to make you fall asleep right now. And she helps high achieving professionals get out of their own heads and back into their power. She works with driven leaders who may look successful on the outside, but are internally battling overthinking, second guessing, emotional exhaustion, and mental overload. Through deep practical mindset work, including the CALM method, I try to say that calmly, and subconscious reprogramming, she helps people clear the emotional clutter, trust themselves again, and move forward with clarity, calm, and conviction. If you have ever replayed conversations, questioned your decisions, or felt like your mind was slowing your momentum, this conversation is going to speak directly to you. So welcome, Nikki.
Thank you, Jaclyn. I'm excited to be here, and I love your humor. So good.
I'm like, I'm so not calm. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like so high energy. I'm like, oh, I gotta bring it down.
I had to learn how to bring it down because it wasn't natural. That's for sure.
So, Nikki, we don't wake up every day being, NLP practitioners and getting into this realm of calm. So talk to us about how you got to this space, because, that journey obviously helps create that unstoppable success.
Yes, it does. And boy, has it been a journey. I'll give you the highlights. I'll give you the fast version, the Cliff Notes. So, yeah, as I was saying, my calm was not a default for me. And I had, since I was a kid, struggled with these negative thoughts, the constant mental noise, and it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good to be inside of my body. And I wanted so badly to be happy and to feel good about myself. So at 16, my mom got me my very first personal development book. And I was like, oh, wow, there's other people like me. Like, people get it. Like, I felt seen, heard, and understood. So 16 was my entry point into understanding, what do you do with the noise in your head? What do you do with the emotions that you're feeling? And I just became obsessed with learning how to feel better. So fast forward, always wanted to act. Acting was an outlet for me because it got me to be somebody other than myself, who I really despised at one time, and I got to pretend to be others, and it just felt so good. So I moved out to LA at 23. I was like, I'm going to pursue this dream, and I gave myself an entire year to make it.
Yeah. Wow.
I know.
365 days.
Yes. And while I was out there, it was the best year of my life, but my head got in the way. And I kept looking for every piece of evidence or reason for why I wouldn't make it, why I wasn't good enough, and why I didn't have what it took. And after my lease was up that year, I found my way back home to New Jersey. And I'm like, now what do I do? I've only ever wanted to act. So I ended up living other people's dream of me being an elementary school teacher. And that is what I settled into. And I did that for 15 years. But again, it was the noise and the thoughts, and I was so unhappy. And I was telling myself, my God, I did everything I was told to do. I got the college education, the master's degree. I bought the house. where's my husband, kids, and white picket fence that I was told comes with this certainty and stability package? And so early midlife crisis, the big 4-0, I turned 40, and I decided, you know what? I think I'm going to live the second act of my life on my terms, and I'm going to do what I want to do. So I ended up resigning, and that led me to do what I do today, helping people to break through those glass ceilings, really, that they put on themselves and change those patterns that have been running the show since you were a kid.
Okay, so wait, so I just have to interrupt for a second. So first of all, I just have to say kudos to your mom. Like,
yes,
right? Like for recognizing that, like, oh crap. I mean, that was like huge.
huge. She knew she herself couldn't help me, but she gave me the manual, so to speak. Like she started with that book. She would record episodes of Oprah. Oprah started this Super Soul series, and she'd interview all different kinds of authors in the personal growth field, and I'd watch that. So she was a big part of a catalyst for me onto this new path.
Yeah, no, but that's absolutely, absolutely huge because I mean, I like think about, I just think about how many people, as you said, like are in this and don't, giving you that book. It's like, ooh, being able to say there's other people like me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So weird. I'm just going to interject this in here. All of a sudden I just had this crazy thought. And this is generational. So it's going to show my age, but I had this thought of like Judy Bloom's book. Like dear, like whatever, where are you? Like it's me, it's Margaret, whatever. Like
Yes.
you know that book? I was like,
I read those books in school.
right. It was like, oh my god. Right. Anyway, sorry. So if anybody is listeners, go look up Judy Bloom. There's some interesting books. When I was growing up, Forever was one of those that was like, ooh, like go look at it. Anyway.
I love it.
But it's true. It's like finding that. So like really big kudos to your mom. But I guess this is the thing that's really interesting is that, you were, the big turning 4-0, that catalyst to say, I need something better.
I needed something more that fit. I was feeling like that square peg, round hole.
Yeah. So,
like I just didn't feel like I would sit on those auditorium seats during faculty meetings. And I was just like, I don't have the same passion that these other teachers have. It just didn't feel like a fit for me.
So you felt like it was more like, did you feel like you were more going like on a hamster wheel? Like you're just kind of going through the motions?
I felt like I was, following what I was told to do. I was very much, would not trust myself and trust that others knew better. And it was more like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I'm just kind of following that. So it felt like going through the motions. But it was uncomfortable internally to feel that way and to keep watching everybody around me, moving on, getting married, having kids and enjoying life. And it's like, you know what? Maybe if I step into my own agency and take back my life and do things my way, maybe that's the thing I need to do to feel good on the inside.
Yeah, I feel like, and I totally get that. It's really, leadership. You have to start with leading yourself and understanding who you are on the inside first before you can lead on the outside.
Yes. Now, I will say that it was maybe 12 years into my teaching career. I did start a mindfulness program for kids. It was this moment where, you meet people for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, that kind of a thing. Yeah. I ran into a coworker in the parking lot of a coffee shop, and I was complaining, about my job and everything. And he's like, Nikki, why don't you just bloom where you're planted? And I had this like visceral reaction in my body. I knew it was important, but had no idea what it meant. But I put it on the back burner. And then months later, I meet who I think is the guy of my dreams. He's like Mr. Perfect. I met him on Plenty of Fish. And it turned out he was a reason in a very short season. He had said to me one day when we were talking, he's like, Nikki, if there's something that you want to do, you want to speak in your living room. Like, you don't wait for opportunity to come to you. You pave the way. And with that, bloom where you're planted came back up to the surface. And I thought, mindful matters. I am teaching in a district that I went through as a kid, and I was picked on and bullied, and I allowed it to hold me back. And I was seeing the same things happening. So I'm like, what if I teach these kids how to manage their thoughts, how to process emotions? And I pitched the idea to the principal. I piloted the program for a year. I loved it. I felt alive, as alive as I was back in LA pursuing acting. And I thought, this is what I'm meant to do. But when the district decided to shut it down after a year, that's when I thought, okay, not going to pack my bags and go back home, so to speak, like I did back when I was 24. What else would this look like? And that's where I was introduced to the coaching industry. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't even know that existed. But I had a business coach say, you can go from children to adults and from local to global. And that was the start of that pivot.
I love that. So when you made that, okay, so you make that shift. What were some of those like big hurdles for you? Because I think other people could probably, glean from that, because, I think a lot of people probably have that. Like, what are those hurdles that you go from going from like one industry, you see this, now you said, go from local to global.
Yeah, the shift when I made the decision, because I stayed in my job for 2 years while I was getting trained and certified. Some of the things that came up is it too late? I was approaching 40 at the time, and it's like, am I too old to start again? That came up. Do I have what it takes? I said, I don't have a background in business. I went to school and was a communications major. And so some of those thoughts came up, the do I have what it takes? Interestingly, same thought that came up in California when I made the decision that I didn't and I left. So it's funny how these voices, they're around for decades, right? And then, is this responsible? Is this responsible? When I started thinking, do I resign from this job and go all in on the business? Because I was doing it on, nights, moonlighting as an entrepreneur, nights and weekends for 2 years. And so that was another thought. Is this responsible? I have a mortgage to pay. I'm on my own. Maybe I should wait until I have a husband and there's a second income. Those were the thoughts that were coming in my mind. And then I thought, what would it look like if I just did this on my own? What would it look like if I took a chance on me? And then my business coach at the time, she said, you could leap and grow your wings on the way down. So I said, you know what? I like the way that sounds. I'm gonna do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is a saying that somebody else has said, and I can't think of who it is, but I just, I happen to be listening to Jack Canfield's book, and Success Principles, and he literally, in my listen yesterday, he said that.
Wow, look at that.
Right? Like he said, leap and grow your wings on the way down. And somebody else had said that. And I'm going to have to page through the book to figure out who it is. But anyway, great book. If you have it, I'll put a link to that if anybody hasn't read it yet, but a really good book. Anyway, but that's really great. I mean, so that those are voices that so many people have.
Yes.
So many people have. So was it working with your coach or the training that you were going through that enabled you to quiet those voices?
It had been a combination of all the work that I did over the years. Like I said, I started at 16 reading those types of books. Gary Zukav's Seed of the Soul was one of my first books. And it's like, what 16-year-old is reading that? This one here. At therapy, I was in and out of therapy for 15 years in my life. And And then the training that I went through, you mentioned NLP and hypnotherapy. I got to experience all of that myself as I was learning it. And that was really helpful. And how do you start to change the patterns in your mind and the way you habitually think to quiet the noise and really start seeing yourself in a different way and operating differently. So I would say it was a big combination of everything that helped me to do that, but it's the practice. It's making it a way of living. It's just not like, it's not a one and done kind of thing. I would say awareness is the first step, having this awareness, and then a willingness to lean into it and ask questions and be curious. Perhaps there's another way of doing this.
I love that you just said that because, I want to kind of take these each practice. So listeners, that's like a really key success tip. Practice means that you are doing something. If it doesn't go the right way on day one, you, as I always like to say, MMA, you measure, monitor, adjust, and you keep practicing until it gets until where you want to be. We all know, Nikki and I were talking a little bit before the show started, it's the 10-year overnight success. That 10-year overnight success comes with 10 years of practice.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. And then the awareness is so key too, because you need to be aware of where you want to be going and what you're doing while you're practicing too.
Yes, you want to be aware and then the willing, because I'll say it's uncomfortable. Even when you become aware of something, a lot of times it's like, oh, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to look at that. It's like, let me just go and, I'll shove it down or I'll go distract myself and do something different. But being willing to be uncomfortable and sit with it to see what is on the other side of this.
Right. And that willingness, and as you just said, sit with the uncomfortable, everybody, I feel like everybody says this, right? But it's true. Like, change happens outside the comfort zone. But in order to get to the comfort zone, you have to, as you just said, the willingness to sit with uncomfortableness.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what? You don't have to sit that long. It's amazing. I remember listening to Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor in an interview, neuroscientist. She had a stroke and then had to relearn how to talk, walk, everything. And she wrote a book, My Stroke of Insight. And she said that it takes 90 seconds to process an emotion. So if you're feeling anger or frustration or sadness or whatever emotion for longer than that minute and a half, it just means that you're in the story, you're repeating it, you're marinating in it. And these are my words, not hers. Yeah. But yeah, if you sit and invite it in as a friend, come on in, anger, let's have a cup of tea together. And you breathe through it, it dissipates in a couple of minutes.
And it's a choice.
It's a choice. Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a choice. You have a choice. I can sit in anger, but how you respond to something is a choice. Yes.
Yeah, that's within our circle of control. Is right. What we choose, even where we choose to place our focus. Am I focusing? Am I looking in the rear view mirror, telling myself the old story? Oftentimes the answer is yes. And well, now that I have the awareness, now I could choose differently.
Yeah. I love that. So you started Mindful Matters, which I think is so great. So talk a little bit about some of the impact that you're now having, because I think it's absolutely phenomenal on people and companies, because that's, impact is so important.
It is. It's one of my top values, impact. So I love that you said that. So I kept the name. I figured, you know what? It was a mindfulness program for kids. I made it an LLC back in 2016 because I was like, you know what? I'm the kind of person that I'm not going to have all my ducks in a row. I'm just going to take action. I probably made it an LLC too soon, but I did. And I said, you know what? Why not keep the name? because a lot of this is becoming mindful of what you're thinking, where your focus is, how you feel. So the way I work with adults today, a lot of them tend to be high achievers. They carry a lot. They put a lot of pressure on themselves, and they present very well. They are successful, and they look very successful. And then privately inside, they still struggle with overthinking and self-doubt because the same patterns are running from when they were a kid. So I help them to get clear on what are those patterns that are running underneath, that are driving the behaviors. Maybe it's people pleasing. Maybe it's perfectionism. Maybe it's I can't say no and I'm feeling resentful on the inside because now I have all these things I said yes to. Whatever the behavior is, I help them get to what is the pattern driving that, and let's clear that so that they naturally start changing how they act, how they show up.
Right. I love that. Listeners, I would bet like this is something that is so important. Like so many of us, so many people have those underlying voices that, creep in. I've listened to some other people and they've, and it's amazing how many people, how many CEOs at the top have that, still have an imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Can I share a story? You made me think of something.
Yeah.
I think this will help to make it really tangible. I became aware of a memory back in high school where we were in gym class, and I think it might have been basketball. I don't remember what sport we were focused on. And we had to choose teams. And I'm waiting and waiting to be chosen. And I was never chosen. We got down to where there was nobody left but me. And then the teacher, he's like, all right, who's going to take Nikki? Which one are you? And I was so embarrassed. And I made the decision, I'm never chosen. And I also felt like I had to wait to be chosen. So fast forward how that starts playing out in my life, waiting for the guy to choose me in dating instead of going after what I want. In business, waiting for the client to come to me and say, can you help me? So the impact that, and I've done that for at least 5 or 6 years in my business. So we're looking at decades of how I'm never chosen and I have to wait for someone to come to me, how that's spilled over into other areas of my life and has slowed me down.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've been able to flip that switch.
Yes, because you have to shine the light of awareness on it. If you're not aware of something, it's hard to change it, right? So I give the example of if I'm out, having lunch and I'm talking and I'm smiling and I'm not aware there's a piece of lettuce in my teeth, I can't do anything about it till somebody points it out. Now I could choose, right? So yeah, becoming aware of it and then changing that pattern. So that you start acting differently, so that I can initiate. Yeah. It even showed up with friends. I would never make plans with friends. And some of my friends would say, well, you're annoying. I always have to be the one to initiate a plan. And I would think if they wanted to hang out with me, they would ask, they would choose to. So that pattern was really playing out for most of my life.
Wow. And so once you have made that shift, what has it done for you?
Well, now I initiate conversations. I'll reach out and make plans. I'm still not the one. I'm still a little old-fashioned when it comes to dating. I still let the guy, but in the online dating space, I do start lots of conversations. I initiate the and then with client, even being able to, listen for a problem and to be able to say, I help with that. Would you like to have a conversation? That was new. That's what changed. And that has led to more clients.
That's awesome. I absolutely love that. So Nikki, you what you're doing, I think, is so great and having an amazing impact. How can our listeners learn more about you, the things that you're doing, the impact that you're making, learn more about Mindful Matters?
Thank you. Yeah, they can connect with me. They can go to my website, which is my name, NikkiGangemNikki.com. I have some free resources to get started. Also on the website, you can access my book, The Calm Method, which teaches you a 4-step framework for how to calm the chaos in your mind and get to a place where you have that clarity and confidence to take action on those aligned decisions. And then also connect with me on social media. I'm across LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will put all of those in the show notes. Listeners, please do me the favor and reach out to Nikki. She is so amazing at what she's doing and what she does. She's smart and she's great, and she can really help you, get over, get rid of those crazy voices in your head. And trust me, I know we all have them. So please do me the favor and reach out and connect with Nikki. And then do me the next favor, if you don't mind. And please share this episode with friends, business colleagues, because I know it's really important for them to hear this. And then lastly, 2 things. We have a great new school community, Unstoppable Success. I'll have the link to that. Join into our school community. And then if you are interested in growing your own relationship capital, we've got a 7-day challenge that is out. It's free, and it's going to help you grow and make better connections and get some ROI on those people that you know. So, Nikki, thank you for being an amazing guest. Listeners, thank you for listening. This is the Unstoppable Success Podcast, where we help you leap to your greatest success. Here's to your unstoppable success. You've been listening to the Unstoppable Success Podcast with Jaclyn Strominger. Subscribe, share, and keep building your unstoppable life. We'll see you at the top.